Hi everybody, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. This is a picture of the Skylands Botanical Garden. It's the State Botanical Garden in New Jersey. It's in Ringwood, New Jersey. And for the past month or so, it's been closed because of the coronavirus. But on Saturday it opened up and I was able to go and it was just gorgeous. As you can see, the apple trees were in bloom and the lilacs were in bloom and it wasn't too crowded, so I was able to do my social distancing and I had a great time and I hope you had a great time on Saturday too. Well, we're still facing the coronavirus and scientists tell us we'll be dealing with it at least for the next couple of years. If we get a vaccine, that's great, but we don't have a vaccine yet, and so we have to proceed with caution. And this is Dr. Amy Acton, and she's the head of the Ohio Health Department. And she's been giving daily briefings in Ohio, which is a state which is 2 states west of New Jersey. First it's Pennsylvania and then it's Ohio. And this Dr. Amy Acton has received a lot of praise, both within Ohio and from outside of Ohio, because in these daily briefings where she goes in front of a camera and a microphone and she speaks to the citizens of Ohio about the coronavirus, she's been having a big impact. And the people of Ohio are very grateful for her, and they feel that she's been really doing a great job. How good of a job is Dr. Amy Acton doing? Well, have a look at this chart. Ohio has a larger population than a neighboring state, Michigan. But Ohio has had 975 deaths, and Michigan, that image there says 3,769, but I checked again and it's actually gone up to 3,789. As you know, the numbers are going up all the time. So Michigan has a lower overall population, but many times more coronavirus deaths. And Ohio has the bigger population, and it actually had its first case of coronavirus before Michigan. So what the heck is going on? Why is Ohio doing better and why is neighboring state Michigan doing worse? And some people feel it's because of the leadership of Dr. Amy Acton. And how is Dr. Amy leading the people of Ohio? Dr. Amy Acton is leading the people of Ohio through the way she uses language. This is an article in the New York Times. It's called "The Leader We Wish We All Had," and it shows Dr. Amy speaking to the citizens of Ohio in a way that has a big impact on them. And so I want you to take some notes, and I want you to post the notes in the journals section of Blackboard. And what I want you to do in your first part of your notes is to jot down what the New York Times is saying that Dr. Amy is doing. She's using language. The way that she speaks is inspiring and motivating and rousing the citizens of Ohio to fight the coronavirus. And this is the point I'm trying to make, and I hope you jot it down in your notes that you post in the journal section of Blackboard. That even at a time like this, where we have this serious crisis, it's a medical crisis, it's a health crisis, and what we need are scientists, and what we need are doctors and nurses and hospitals and syringes and ventilators. Even at a time like this, we also need language. Language is the key, because language is what we use to reach each other and to communicate with each other. And Dr. Amy, as you can see from this image from the New York Times video, which I hope you'll watch, you can go to the New York Times website. That's period.com. And the name of the article is The Leader We Wish We All Had. And the New York Times does have a paywall, but they're letting anyone see their coronavirus articles as a public service. So you can go to the website and you can watch this video that shows how Dr. Amy is using language to motivate people, to inspire people, to rouse people. And this class that you are taking right now at the County College of Morris is helping you to be someone who can inspire people, who can motivate people the way you use language. And you'll see on the screen there, every time she uses the word I, it's highlighted in blue. So Dr. Amy is talking about her own first-person experience. But she doesn't just talk about herself. She also turns it around and talks directly to the viewer. You, you, you. That's highlighted in red. And then you see what's highlighted in pink. Us, our, we. So she starts with I, then she talks to you, and then she brings in everyone. It's all about us. It's all about we. It's all about our. This is a woman who is using language masterfully during a national crisis to inspire the population. And I hope you'll jot that down in your notes. Okay, let's get started. We're going to talk about some student papers now, and I hope that the students whose papers I'm talking about will watch this, because I hope I'm going to make some helpful suggestions. And as we go, I'll ask you some questions, and I'm going to ask you to jot down your answers. You can either create a Word document and upload it to Blackboard, to the journal section, or you can type right into the screen. Okay, so this is the first paragraph of a student paper. And what I'm going to ask you to do after I finish reading this paragraph is I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think of this paragraph. So let me read this first paragraph of a student paper. In a lot of ways, the world and I are in a big predicament. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the world is at a standstill. All anyone can do is look towards the future for the light at the end of the tunnel. I hope that in 5 to 10 years, there are many changes, including a COVID-19 vaccine. I hope to finish school or attend the police academy to become. Ever since I was a child, I looked up to the police force. I also hope to own my house or apartment. I have high hopes that we are in a better place as a country, a world, and that I am in a better place as a person. Okay, so what I want you to do in your notes now is I want you to jot down what you think of this first paragraph. You can say something like, I think this first paragraph was great and this is why, or I think this first paragraph was not so good and this is why. So tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate this paragraph? And what would you like the author to do differently? And if you want, you can pause the video and jot down your answer. Okay, I'm going to be pretty rough on this student because I thought this first paragraph was just a waste of my time. It's mediocre. Mediocre means it's not really bad, but it's also not good. What the problem with this paragraph is the person doing the writing is not putting himself into the writing. This student is not invested in what he's writing. He's just writing a lot of blah, 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 blah. It's boring, it's empty, it's cliche. Cliche means he's saying things that have been said a million times. In a lot of ways. What ways? Come on, don't waste my time, buddy. In a lot of ways. He's not mentioning any specific way. The world and I are in a big predicament? That's kind of arrogant. You and the world, you're in this together? Come on, you're just one person. All anyone can do, very vague. Who's anyone? What is he talking about? Give me a specific detail There are no specific details in this first paragraph. The light at the end of the tunnel. That's a cliche. It's something that's been said 100 times. I need something original. I need something from the mind, from the heart, from the soul of this student. Many changes, again, vague. And then there are some words missing. I hope to finish school or attend the police academy to become. Ever since I was a child, I looked up to the police force. There are missing words there. I have high hopes. That's another cliche. Okay, so please jot down in your notes. My problem with this opening paragraph is it's boring, it's vague, it's full of cliches, things that have been said too many times. What would make it better? Some investment from the student. Actually, I think this whole paragraph should be thrown out, and I think a new paragraph should be written. What might that new paragraph be about? Okay, let's look at what was a middle paragraph in this student's paper. In the future, I'm looking towards my career as a police officer. The reason I want to become an officer is that the police force is viewed in a negative light by the African American community. And I feel that I can make a difference and change that perspective. I would also like to help improve the outlook on the police and help prove that not all police officers are corrupt. The reason that African Americans have an adverse reaction or a poor view of police officers is because of the bad ones, like, for example, the countless shootings of unarmed black men. These are the lousy police officers who make the news and build a bad reputation for all police officers. These people need to be able to see that there are officers in the country who strive to improve the communities instead of causing harm. Another reason I want to become a police officer is so I can help other people. Growing up, I did not have a strong male role model to look up to, so I feel that if I become a police officer, I can become that male role model that a child in my situation could have. Being able to make an impact like this in a child's life will allow me to feel as though I have been able to do some good as a police officer. Okay, what I'd like you to do right now in your notes is I'd like you to jot down, tell me what you think of this paragraph about the student's plan to become a police officer someday. And if you like, please pause the video and jot down your thoughts about this police officer paragraph. I liked the police officer paragraph. It was the only thing in that student's paper that I liked. It was the only thing in the student's paper that I felt like was coming from his heart, from his soul, that there was some investment, that he cared about what he was talking about, that he was willing to take the risk to say something real. Remember, I said to you, to be a good writer, you have to be willing to take risks. And if you're writing cliches, if you're saying things that have been said a million times before, like the light at the end of the tunnel and all that crap, you're just repeating what other people have said. Give me something real. And I felt like that paragraph where he talked about wanting to become a police officer was really the only real thing he's written all semester. It's not a perfect paragraph and it needs work. For example, there's a lot of redundancy. What's redundancy? Can you jot down in your notes what redundancy is? Tell me what redundancy is. It's something we've talked about in your notes right now. And tell me how to fix redundancy. And have a look at what you see on the screen and tell me if you see any redundancies. And tell me how you're going to fix those redundancies. And if you want, you can pause the video and see the redundancies. Okay, I want to change that perspective. I want to help improve the outlook. He's saying the exact same thing twice. That's a redundancy where you say the same thing twice. Change that perspective, improve that outlook. Delete one. I want to help prove that not all police officers are corrupt. He has said the same thing 3 times in a row. I want to change that perspective. That's number one. I want to help improve the outlook. That's number two. I want to prove that not all police officers are corrupt. That's number three. What's the solution? Delete. Change that perspective. Delete. Help improve the outlook on the police. And keep. I want to prove that not all police officers are corrupt. He does the same thing underneath there. He says adverse reaction or poor view. He's saying the exact same thing 2 times. He did not reread his paper before handing it in. Reread your papers before handing them in and delete redundancies. So delete poor view and keep adverse reaction. Then he says countless shootings of unarmed black men. I want you to write down a word. The word is hyperbole. 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 Hyperbole means you're just saying something that's exaggerated. There have not been countless shootings of unarmed black men. There have been a certain number of countless shootings of unarmed black men. So just delete the word countless. Then he says these people. What people? You're not telling me what people you're talking about. Then he says, growing up, I did not have a strong male role model to look up to. That is an interesting sentence. In his entire paper, this was the only paragraph I cared about. In the entire paragraph, the best sentence is, growing up, I did not have a strong male role model to look up to. What this student needs to do is he needs to take the best part of his paper and then he needs to write a paper around it. Delete that stupid first paragraph that wasn't saying anything, that was just full of cliches, and give me a paper based on what this paragraph is about. If the student had done that, he would have gotten an A for the semester. Okay, let's look at another student paper. The pandemic has created a lot of tension all throughout the world. Many of us fear the unknown and what will happen in the next few months. The deadly virus has caused anxiety and sleepless nights while still trying to process everything. I want to visit my friends and family in New York when we are allowed back outside again. I want to go on a weekend and stay for a long time. I miss my grandparents, so I would want to catch a movie with my grandmother or go to a nice restaurant. I want to feel the wind in my scalp, the sunlight beaming through. I want to feel raindrops as they fall onto my skin, watering all the plants. I want to catch a movie and eat buttered popcorn, hearing sounds of laughter. I want to explore abandoned places with friends and go for long drives at 1 a.m., blasting music with loud bass. I want to do everything and anything after this quarantine is over with. There is so much I want to do in the future. I want to work on a higher GPA so I can get into a better college. I like Rutgers or Kean University here in New Jersey. I want to meet the love of my life and move into a comfortable apartment or house somewhere in California with 2 dogs. In a different alternative, I want to have my best friend as my roommate so we can work together and cook meals. I want to become a journalist, maybe even a cosmetologist. I want to become financially and mentally stable, taking care of my own bills and not depending on anyone. I am worried how life will be when we all return to school and work, but I am determined to live a happy and healthy lifestyle despite the obstacles we are facing right now. I want to continue to live a free-spirited lifestyle and progress into a better person each day. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is I want you to pause and tell me what you like about this piece. This is the entire paper. I didn't just give you part of it. This is the whole paper. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this paper? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What do you want the author to do differently? And go ahead and pause the video and jot down your answer to those questions. Well, I screwed up because I was hoping that I would see that same paper again, but I don't see it. And I don't know how to go backwards, so I'm going to have to talk about the paper from memory. And you can, go backwards in the video, but I can't go backwards while recording it. I'll tell you what I liked about that paper. What I liked about it was that there were very few errors. There are very few comma splices, there's very few misspellings, there's very few misused words. And this writer, the author who wrote that paper, has improved a lot this semester. And I'm very proud of this author, and this author is headed towards a passing grade. This author has worked really hard, and I'm really happy with that. I also really like the concrete details. I like the concrete details about missing the grandparents, about going to a movie with the grandparents, about feeling the sun on the scalp, about feeling the raindrops on the skin, the relationship between the raindrops on the skin and the water watering the plants, the details about going to the movies and eating the popcorn and everybody's laughing at the same time. I felt that there was a little bit of an abrupt transition between this is what I want for like next week and this is what I want for the rest of my life. Like maybe I'm going to become a journalist, maybe I'm going to become a cosmetologist. So I think there should have been like some kind of transition. Like the author could have said something like, this is what I want for next week, but how about for the rest of my life? And somehow relating what the author wanted in the immediate future and what the author wanted down the road. So I thought that was a pretty good paper, excuse me, and I'm really proud of this author's progress this semester. And I apologize for screwing up the slides, but as I said, I don't know how to go backwards. I'm learning too. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the paper that's on your screen right now. Every day, more and more people are getting infected with COVID-19. More cases are showing up and more people are dying. We lost many, but we will get through this pandemic. By making sure we are in quarantine and are not going out, we can guarantee that the pandemic will pass. We will overcome and defeat COVID-19 and we will succeed. Many people are excited for this pandemic to be over so that we can go outside and go to our favorite places that we aren't allowed to go to. Although thinking about going to places might be exciting, we have to realize that COVID-19 is not just going to disappear. When the quarantine is over, people will be able to go wherever they want to go, such as a restaurant or amusement park. I want to take my children to the beach so that they could feel the sand in between their toes and to go swim in the water. Later on, we could go to their favorite Chinese restaurant. Staying home for a long time could be very tiring and drain you down. Before doing all of these fun things with my family, I want to wait for a week or two because everything isn't going to be corona-free, out of nowhere. It's going to take time. When it comes to the long future, I think about my company I want to start and my kids with their grandkids. When I officially get my degree of graphic design, I would like to start my own designer company. I have always wanted to design my own clothes since I was little. In the future, I imagine myself visiting my daughter's house after work and seeing my grandchildren play around and being happy. I want my family to live better than I did and to be successful. I want to see my daughter and sons at their wedding. When it comes to COVID-19, I think about how no matter how many or how little people die, a vaccine must be made. Many people would be able to benefit from it, and the death rate would go much lower. As people in this world, it is our job to help with friends, family, and others as well. When COVID-19 is gone, it might come again, but we need to be more prepared for what might come. If we are not cautious and don't have vaccines to help, then the population of the world will only go lower. There is no way we may predict the future, but all I know is that we must live every day as if it is our last. We won't know what is coming next. We need to appreciate the ones that are with us today. We must help and succeed together as one. All I know about the future is that I'm going to try and live it up and help others. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is jot down some comments in your notes about this paper. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this paper? What did you like that the author did? What do you think that the author could do differently? What do you think I'm going to say about the paper? How about the punctuation? How about the spelling? So go ahead and jot that down. Oh, good grief. I just made the same mistake. I am so sorry. I thought I had another copy of that paper, and I don't. So I'm going to have to talk about it from memory. All right. First of all, I'm happy that this student wrote such a long paper because this student has a tendency to write very short papers, and this student was able to write a very long paper, and I really appreciate that the student was able to write something long. So that's good progress. There are very few spelling errors. If I remember correctly, she said she wanted to take her children to a Chinese restaurant and she forgot to capitalize Chinese, so you have to capitalize the word Chinese. There's a couple of places where the author needs commas because she begins either with a prepositional phrase. Remember, if there's a prepositional phrase at the beginning of a sentence, you want to put a comma after it. In the future, comma, blah, blah, blah. On the top of the table, comma, blah, blah, blah. And I think there's a spot where she uses a dependent clause and she doesn't put a comma. So you've got to put a comma if you begin a sentence with a dependent clause. When we have a vaccine, comma, we will be able to go out again. My major problem with this paper, and I really hate myself because I don't have it up on the screen, but I hope you can kind of reverse the video and see it again, is that the student hops from topic to topic. She never develops a full paragraph on one topic. One minute she's saying she wants to take her kids to the beach. The next minute it's a different topic. The next sentence is a different topic. In that entire paper, there is no one full paragraph that is devoted to one idea. Also, in that paper, the student keeps switching back and forth between the big picture, like, wow, the whole world is having this problem with COVID-19, and the intimate personal picture, me and my children will do this, that, and the other thing. So pick what you want to talk about. Do you want to talk about the whole world having the coronavirus problem, or do you want to talk about your kids? And if you're going to be talking about one and then the other, you need some kind of transition. Somehow relate them to each other. So what I want this student to do is I want this student to write one solid paragraph where she develops one solid idea. Give me one paragraph, an entire paragraph about taking your kids to the beach. Nothing else is in that paragraph. Just you and the kids at the beach. What beach are you going to go to? What time of day are you going to go? Is it rocky or sandy? Is it a beach with a high surf or a low surf? Is it a beach with a lot of concessions selling cotton candy, or is it a beach that's undeveloped? Tell me everything about that beach in that paragraph. Don't quick and change the subject. If you're going to tell me about your design company, give me an entire paragraph about your design company. What kind of clothes are you going to design? Who are you designing them for? What kind of colors are you going to use? What's the price range? What kind of fabrics are you going to use? What size? Are you going to design clothes for petite, skinny little women? Are you going to design clothes for all women? Develop your paragraph. And the other thing I would say to this author is no cliches. Like you kept saying things like, nobody knows what happens in the future, live each day to the fullest. Those are cliches. There are things that have been said before. Give me your original voice. And I apologize again, completely ashamed of myself that I did not have the image of that paper up on the screen again. Okay, let me try not to make that mistake again. One more student paper. COVID-19 is unlike anything ever seen before. The only thing in history comparable to this was the plague. Though the death toll was higher for the plague, it was not a worldwide disease like COVID-19. To say that I am not scared would be a lie. I try not to think about the virus too much, but how can that be avoided when every time I walk my dogs, there is nothing but silence outside? When I walk into the store to find it half full. It feels like I am living in an apocalypse. When this first started, my naive brain enjoyed the quarantine. I am a homebody, so I took pleasure in the fact that I would get to enjoy time with my girlfriend and our 2 dogs. How wrong I was. Almost 2 months into this, the death toll is going up, and the cases in my town have skyrocketed to almost 400. I do what I can to take protective measures. I only leave my house when absolutely essential. I limit contact with others, and I always wear a mask. However, even with all that we are doing, it still doesn't seem like enough. I can sit and dwell on the series of unfortunate events unfolding in front of me, or I can choose to think of a happier time, one without the coronavirus. The future isn't something I would generally think about often, but it seems to be on my mind heavier than usual lately. The first thing I will do when all of this is over is go to the movies. I will pick a later showing, possibly around 9 o'clock on a weekday, to avoid crowds. I like to go later because I am a natural night owl, and I love the calm vibe at the movie theaters when it is late and there are not a lot of people there. I would see an action movie, preferably a high-rated one. I like to see action movies in the theaters because of the atmosphere and surround sound. I would sit in the middle of the theater, close to the top. I would drink a slushie and eat Sour Patch Kids until I go into the sugar coma, because I am still an 8-year-old at heart. After the movies, maybe on a different day, I would take my 2 dogs to the dog park. Nothing makes me happier than seeing my 2 fur babies running free and playing with other dogs, as I know how happy it makes them. I would take them to the Morris Plains Dog Park, where there is a huge fenced-in area, and I have never seen fewer than 20 dogs in there at a time. It is a complete zoo, but it is awesome to meet other dogs and to make my 2 as happy as possible. After I took them to the park, I would have them jump in my car, even with their muddy feet, because I always forget to bring a towel and take them home. I would leave the windows down so they could enjoy the air, and they would bark at the motorcyclists that passed me on the way home, as they always do. We would come home exhausted, and my girlfriend and I would enjoy the silence of our 2 little ones passed out happily. The last thing I would do to top off a great day is to work out. Saying I miss the gym would be a total understatement. I miss the environment of walking into the gym, feeling physically good, and being ready to crush a workout for the day. I know I will have lost so much strength when I go back, but I am so excited to finally get my body and my mind on the right track again. Going to the gym is my biggest stress reliever, and I plan to get a chest day in for the first time in months when I am back. I expect it will be brimming with people, and so I hope they put a limit as to how many people can use the gym at a time. I am lucky I don't work during 9 to 5, so I plan to go when most people are working. Going to the movies, walking my dogs, and working out were all things I took for granted. I did all of these things minimally once per week, and they have been a part of my routine for a long time. Being so far into the quarantine, it is easy to forget the joy these all once brought me, but thinking about it causes all of the good memories to resurface. I realize now that I have taken much for granted in life, but I plan to practice gratitude for everything and anything as soon as this madness is finally over. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is give this paper a score. On a score of 1 to 10, what score would you give this paper? What would you like the author to do differently? What did you like? Go ahead and do that, and if you want, you can pause. Okay, I'm not even going to dare to advance the screen because I don't want to screw up again, so I will just comment on what I see in front of me. I have to tell you, I loved this paper. I think this is not only one of the best papers I've read all semester, this is one of the best student papers I have ever read. And I'm really proud of this student. I think he did a great job. And the great job that this student did, he didn't do anything fancy. He didn't use any big words. He just wrote about the details of everyday life, and he organized his thoughts into paragraphs. Remember last time I talked about the big picture? Writing is not just about sentence by sentence, but it's about the big picture. There's a big picture here. This paper is beautifully crafted. It is like a sculpture that where everything just fits. There's a place for everything and everything is in its place. This author took risks. He listened to himself. He listened to his own inner voice. He imagined himself after the shutdown is over. He's in the movies. He's telling me exactly what snacks he's eating in the movies. He's drinking a slushie. He's eating Sour Patch Kids. He's going into a sugar coma. Why? Because he's an 8-year-old at heart. When is he going? He's going at 9 o'clock on a weekday. Why is he going at 9 o'clock on a weekday? To avoid crowds. What is he going to see? He's going to see an action movie. How is he going to see it while eating candy? He's answering all the questions that an author has to answer. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Then he describes the dog park. He describes the dog park vividly. He talks about how many dogs are in the dog park, 20 dogs. He talks about how he makes his dogs happy. He talks about the fenced-in area. He talks about where it is. Where is it? In Morris Plains. Again, who, what, when, where, why, how. And that's all that, the first paragraph of the body of the paper is just about the movies. The second paragraph of the body of the paper is just about the dog park. The third paragraph is just about going to the gym. What's he going to do in the gym? He's going to do a chest workout. Why is he going to do a chest workout? Because he hasn't been to the gym in a long time, and the gym is his place where he escapes from stress. He's got a beautiful opening paragraph that describes what the world is like now. What is the world like now? It's quiet. There's hardly anybody in the store. Uh, Everything is a little bit scary. He's feeling a little bit scared. And then he has a beautiful, powerful concluding paragraph where he does mention once again everything he's talked about so far: going to the movies, walking my dogs, working out at the gym. So he's repeating himself, which is what you should do in a concluding paragraph. But another thing you should do in a concluding paragraph is you should say something slightly new that ties everything together, and he manages to do that. He says, I took all these things for granted. I used to do them once a week. They were part of my routine. But now, because of the quarantine, I can't do them anymore. So he's saying the same thing that he said already, but he's also introducing a little bit of a new valence on what he's already mentioned. This is a great paper. Bravo. And amazingly enough, I have all my notes. Um, I thought that the first sentence was a little bit hyperbolic, that it's unlike anything ever seen before. Avoid hyperbole. Again, hyperbole, Hyperbole, hyperbole. Hyperbole means you're exaggerating. I don't really know that COVID-19 is unlike anything ever seen before, because we had a flu pandemic, a virus pandemic in 1918, 102 years ago. He does capitalize the plague the first time he mentions it, and the second time he mentions the plague, he doesn't capitalize it, so that's a problem. I really admire that he's got the semicolon where he needs a semicolon. You have two independent clauses, and he put a semicolon in between. I loved his comment about how it's silent outside, and he walks into the store, and it's like an apocalypse. And I've already mentioned, you notice that I highlight in the final paragraph there everything that I think he did so powerfully and so well. So once again, bravo for this student. Um, Students, learn to write. Listen to your writing teacher, buy your grammar books, do the exercises. Why? Because the pen is mightier than the sword, because the way we use language changes the world, because the way Dr. Amy uses language in Ohio is saving lives, lives that are not being saved in Michigan. Yes, you can break a pencil, but then it becomes two pencils. The pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the sword. How do you become a good writer? You become a good writer by reading books. Yes, you actually have to turn off the world, turn away from other people, even if they're your loved ones. Sit by yourself and read a book. Here's William Faulkner, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Read, 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 read everything, trash, classics, good and bad, and see how they do it. Just like a carpenter who works who works as an apprentice and studies the master. Read, you'll absorb it, get it down, take chances. It may be bad, but it's the only way you can do anything really good. Please jot this down in your notes. The way to be a good writer is to read. Read books. Write what should not be forgotten. That's Isabel Allende, a Chilean author. Please jot that down in your notes. We write so that we can remember the things we would otherwise forget. A writer is a world trapped inside a person. In that essay that we just looked at, we were introduced to that writer's world, to the dogs, to the gym, to the movies, to the fear during the pandemic, to the hope for the future. All of that we got through that person's words. No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. That's Robert Frost, a great American poet. Please jot that down. You don't have to write the whole quote, but just write this down, that the writer himself must care about what he's writing about. You have to invest yourself. Remember the first paper we looked at, that it was pretty boring, pretty cliche, but when the students started writing about wanting to become a police officer, the writing picked up, the writing got a little bit better. As long as you care about what you're writing about, you can make me care about what you care about. Writing, painting, music, and dance give voice to the soul. Those who never tap these arts never express their souls fully. Your soul wants you to speak. Give your soul voice. Learn to write.